All right. Um, I'm one of those people who doesn't pick his own friends. His friends pick him. And Josh picked me. And, I was really hurting that he was on his way out. I was hurting a lot, too. So you have to keep in mind that an avatar is a manufactured, genetically engineered automaton built for a specific purpose, and in this case, to survive in our environment. Okay, so John was immune to our environment. Yes, he had the technology to save, but he would not interfere.
Okay, but, isn't it kind of a mundane reason for a very advanced society to come to our solar system just to study the solar system and to, maybe watch us to try to learn about them? Or is that not right?
I would say that because I haven't gotten to the complete story yet, it's way off. I haven't gotten there yet, and if you want me to continue on that line, I'll be happy to.
It's up to you, unless Gary's got something else to ask.
Well, no, I would like to hear the rest of it before I can ask questions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so in order to talk about this system, strangely enough, we have to first talk about what it takes to go from point A to point B in interstellar space. All right? So we have to talk about a propulsion system that is completely unknown in human civilization, all right? Both in our fiction and in our science. Okay? So, how do you go and do this? This was my number one question, guys, okay? I know I was at the time a journalist. I was a nosy guy. I didn't care about conspiracies and government cover-ups or anything else. couldn't care less. My number one thing is if you don't have a Starship Enterprise, then how the hell do you do it? Okay, and here we go.
Okay.
We have to first talk about a material that's called stellar core fragment material. And what is a stellar core fragment material? Stellar core fragment material is what blows off when there's a supernova. Okay, you have a super compressed star, and it explodes. Okay, sometimes you get a black hole so big the whole thing just gets sucked right in. Sometimes you wind up with a neutron star. Sometimes you wind up with a quasar. Okay, in all these circumstances, during the process of compression and explosion, material from the compressed star explodes out into space almost at the speed of light. Okay? And that material is so dense, all right, that a dime-sized amount of this material would weigh as much as everything on Manhattan Island in New York. Imagine all that single little bit of weight and something the size of a dime. All right? And that's a stellar core fragment material. And this is the material that they use to build a propulsion system. Okay? So, how do they do it? Well, there's a reason why these ships are sometimes look like saucers. There's a reason why sometimes they look like eggs. There's a reason why sometimes they look like cigars, okay? And the reason they are those shapes is because they're all built around using this particular material, which is extremely dangerous material, okay? So they got this going at super liquid speeds inside their little propulsion system, which is why they spin, okay? They're not just stabilizing themselves within our gravity, they're stabilizing the propulsion system. So that's why they spin. So what do they do with this? Well, there are 4 dimensions of space, and I'm going to get a lot of email on this one. I'm sorry, guys. I don't care how long you've been in physics. There are 4 dimensions of space. There are not more than 4. except under circumstances of an extremely expanding explosion, a localized event, and that those multiple dimensions only exist during the period of time of that expansion, and when the explosion's over, the dimensions are gone. But for the rest of us, there are four, and you and I live in dimensions 2, 3, and 4. All right? Most physicists think we live in 1, 2, and 3, and the fourth dimension is something else. They call it time-space. They're wrong. Not my fault. And we don't have enough time to go into that right now. That's another program unto itself. But let's talk about the first dimension, okay? Because this is how they move through interstellar space. And how does it work? Well, I'll give you an example. Our star has been around for 4 billion plus years. It turns at a particular rate, and it has a particular magnetic signature. And just like fingerprints, there's no other star exactly like our sun. Some are a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, but the point is that they all send out a completely different resonant signature. And it turns out that if you're a master of gravity and a master of space, that one, you can look at that star from 5, 10, 100 light years away, and you can read its resonant signature. And then you can reach down into the gravity well that Earth, our planet, is a part of, and you can read that same signature. You search for that same signature through the gravity well, okay? And then you take your flying saucer and you spit it out until you create a one-dimensional bubble around your spaceship. And you then fly that spaceship into Earth's gravity well, and you come out of the gravity well where you want to be. And that, my friends, is how you go from point A to point B in interstellar space.
Interesting.
So, okay. They didn't put that in the fiction books, did they? So what does that have to do with this system that we live in? Okay, and why is it so interesting to them? Well, if you become a master of stellar core fragment material, then you've become a master of gravity, because you can't master the core fragment material without the science of gravity. In other words, you've become a master of one-dimensional space. And this kind of thinking is a big problem for human beings because it's almost impossible. We're simply not wired in our brains to think one-dimensionally. Okay? Even to have this conversation, I have these little models that I come up with in my mind that I learned way back in the day that remind me exactly what one-dimensional space is, because, even though I've gone through the lessons, I still don't think one-dimensionally because, like you, my mind isn't wired to think one-dimensionally. So, you are a master of gravity in order to become a master of this propulsion system, okay? But if you've become a master of gravity, then you can create a computer model where you can use stellar core fragment material. And that computer model, okay, will allow you to be at a particular place at a particular time when there's going to be a supernova, and you can create your own solar system to match the world that you're from, so that when your world is no more, you and your people will have some place to go. So you have to be thinking like 4 billion years into the future in order to get this model right. So what do? Well, you go to where your computer model says you have to be standing, and one of the first things you're going to need is a sun. So you take stellar core fragment material of a particular mass that your computer model says it has to be, and you put that at the center of your new system, you say. Then you have to create a statistical model. And I mentioned this earlier. Anyone mathematician can see that there's a particular graph between Mercury and Mars. And you just don't know which way those planets are going to exactly turn out, because within your graph, there's a standard deviation. So you set up your core fragment material according to the way your bell curve tells you to do it in your computer model, and you now put other stellar core fragment materials in orbit around the stellar core fragment material that you want to be your sun. And these are going to be your planets. And you're going to set it up exactly the way your computer model says, and then there's going to be a supernova. It's going to explode. And when it explodes, it's going to send a massive, huge amount of material into this little core fragment system. And that stellar core fragment material is going to gather up the mass from that explosion according to its mass, according to the way your computer model said, well, this is how you form a sun. And one of the things people should know about our sun is that compared to other suns, it's kind of small. That's why it's going to last so long, because of its size and its mass. It's of a particular type of mass that will last 8 or 10 billion years. And most of the suns that go, like, for example, Betelgeuse, okay, we're talking about something that, 1 billion and a half years. It's a supermassive star, and when it explodes, we'll see it from Earth. And so if you had set up this little system, this little computerized system around Betelgeuse, then all that material is going to fly off, and your model is going to suck up all that material, and you're going to form a star according to your computer models. You're going to form inner planets. You're going to form a gas giant that's going to revolve around. And one of the big mysteries of our system, and science knows this now, is that Jupiter was circling in to the center originally, okay, and then suddenly Saturn appeared. As far as I've always been concerned, reading the data, Saturn is a paradigm shift, okay? It's like somebody put something out there because Jupiter was going to go in and wreck the model, so they corrected their model by putting something out there that became Saturn. Okay, and if you go into the details of the theories of how Saturn formed, it makes sense. And because Saturn showed up, Jupiter wound up where it is now. Okay, otherwise it would have wiped out everything in the inner solar system. And science now knows that's what usually happens in most star systems. A gas giant cleans house, cleans out the entire system, and winds up crashing into the home star. But not here. Okay, so you are this advanced race, and now with all this material coming in from that supernova, you are growing your own star system that will eventually be a new home to your civilization. And it turns out that once a civilization becomes a master of gravity, this is actually one of the first things they go out and do. It's kind of like a backup plan. So the reason they come here and why our system is so interesting to them isn't us, okay? The reason it's so interesting to them is because this is a success story upon which they can build a computer model.
Interesting. Now, AJ, we got to go on break, and after break, we got about 10 minutes to, wrap up where you can tell people how, again, your website, your book, and, and your newest book. So just stay tuned. We'll be back with AJ in about 3 minutes.